What is up, guys? This is Teacher Ken. Welcome to another episode of Advanced English for the Bilingual Professional. Today, we will learn the correct place and use of the reflexive pronoun, what it is, and how to use it. Lesson 26 in our book, English Sentence Structure. On page 269, box A1, and page 270 for exercise 1. PDF pages 282 and 283. Without further ado, let's get this episode going. So, what is the reflexive pronoun? It is the pronoun that we use when the one receiving or being affected by the action is the same person initiating the action itself. This means that the object is the same as the subject. Look at the first sentence in box A1. It says, John sees Mary in the mirror. In this case, the subject, or the one starting the action, is John, and the object, the one receiving the action, is Mary. In the second example, with the new pattern, John is both the subject and the object, and that is why we say, John sees himself in the mirror. And just as we have different pronouns for each person, we have a specific reflexive pronoun for each person. Let's read the additional examples under box A1 to see each of the reflexive pronouns on its own. Repeat after me. I see myself. You see yourself. He sees himself. She sees herself. It sees itself. We see ourselves. You see yourselves. They see themselves. If you notice, you in reflexive form has a difference between singular and plural. So again, you see yourself in singular form, and you see yourselves in the plural form. I know this is something that we have seen at the basic level, but I would like to remind you that actions involving a direct object and an indirect object may have two different orders or structures. These are the verbs that use to or for, and we find them in Lesson 8 of our book, English Sentence Structure. The note below the additional examples explains that it doesn't matter if the action has both structures or patterns as possible. You will use the reflexive pronoun or the self pronoun in whichever position you choose, as long as the rest of the grammar remains correct. Let's read the 4 examples in the note after the box. Repeat after me. John bought a book for Mary. John bought Mary a book. John bought a book for himself. John bought himself a book. Let's use exercise 1 on page 270 to practice the 2 correct positions of the reflexive pronoun or the self pronoun. I will read the sentence and give you a moment to say it with the other structure. After you say it with the other structure, that is, removing the for and placing the reflexive pronoun right after the action, I will say the sentence myself so you can compare. Don't forget to repeat after me to internalize any necessary corrections. Exercise 1. From the examples. John bought a book for himself. John bought himself a book. Mary wrote a note to herself. Mary wrote herself a note. Number 1. George is going to buy a coat for himself. George is going to buy himself a coat. George sent a package to himself. George sent himself a package. John made a sandwich for himself. John made himself a sandwich. Mary is going to bake a cake for herself. Mary is going to bake herself a cake. George is going to find a job for himself. George is going to find himself a job. Number 6. Bill cut a slice of bread for himself. Bill cut himself a slice of bread. Mr. and Mrs. Miller are going to build a house for themselves. Mr. and Mrs. Miller are going to build themselves a house. John ordered a hamburger for himself. John ordered himself a hamburger. George found a chair for himself. George found himself a chair. And number 10, Mary sewed a dress for herself. Mary sewed herself a dress. Very good. That is everything we have in the first lesson regarding reflexive pronouns. If you would like to have some extra practice, you can go to lesson 26 in our book, English Structure Practices. Exercises 1 and 2 are on pages 336 and 337. PDF pages 662 and 663. We are almost halfway through this podcast of Advanced English for the Bilingual Professional. Don't forget to check the channel for the other podcasts at the basic and intermediate levels. If you think you might be missing any information, you could find it there. Watch this video at least 3 times this week. And until next time, remember that English is easy. You've got me for practice. See you in the next class.